Hello, this is Alex PostMesmeric, and we are celebrating the 10,000 subscribers to the PostMesmeric channel, and I apologize, this is coming off the cuff, this is not scripted. I really don't know what to say, because I've been doing this for a long time, several years, this whole YouTube thing, and I wanted to kind of commemorate some sort of long-lasting process that I've been doing this for so long, but I really don't have too much to say. It all started with the dishwasher video, and that was something that I really did like seeing get off the ground in the way it did. It didn't go, crazy viral or anything like that, but it was a good project, and I do think that kind of took off in a very positive and fulfilling way. Pretty happy with how that video came out way back when, and it did a lot of things for me and for the way I think about games that I think was good, that I think that there was a lot going on with that. So, getting the ball rolling in that way all those years ago was a really big moment. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I don't really know what to say. I mean, I did kind of say all that I could on the community post and on Twitter. Big thank you to everyone who watched my video, shared my video around on the social networks, left a comment, liked or retweeted it on Twitter. That's the kind of stuff that I think is most important when you're trying to get someone toward the success that they're pursuing. I think that kind of engagement is so important and so valuable to any kind of content creator or any kind of creator in general. Like, I see a lot of artists on Twitter or, game developers who are trying to make their own sort of space in the field. So I guess if there's one takeaway that I can get from that, it's just that, those kinds of that kind of attention, that kind of engagement is extremely important. And the fact that I've been receiving that is incredibly special to me. So thank you so much for getting me to where I am today, and I'm hoping that I'm able to keep the ball rolling, keep producing content that makes people smile or think about games in a different way. That means a lot, and I really do appreciate it. So I there's been a lot of reflection on how I make these videos and what exactly it means. But I kind of want to save that for later, because right now there's a Q&A to get ready. I put a post out on the community post and also on Twitter of just some questions that people would want to ask me about videos, about myself, about just all these sorts of things that kind of is related to the channel. So let's get started. First question is from Daniel Santos, my good friend, Shintai Reviews. How do you come up with and decide on video ideas? See, there's a lot of people who, they just don't randomly pick out a game, and maybe they just sort of come up with some sort of idea, while they're playing the game. Maybe they're taking notes or something like that. I really don't feel like my process is the same way. I don't really have much of a direction. Sometimes they can come down to just a tagline, just something like a title of a video, and that can help me work around it, just build upon a very simple thesis, even just something, just a catchy tagline. It can be 3 words, and it can just come together in a way, and I'm able to build around that. But as far as like a single process, I really don't have that I don't have too much direction. So I want to have an answer. I really do want to have an answer on this, but it's really not as simple as, this is the formula that I do. This is the way that I come up with an idea. It's very organic. It's very, natural in how that works. So, it can come down to just a simple, catchy phrase, I guess. Next question is from Mr. Picanjo, a longtime friend of mine. What's the most complicated thing you've done for a video? Well, it's motion graphics, and I hate doing motion graphics. This is something that kind of came up in the D4 video, in the D4, the Legacy of D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die. I tried to do some very simple motion graphics, and at first I was like, this is really good. I kind of like how this is going. This is something I can do in future videos. But then I noticed just how flowery and really purposeless I think that the motion graphics had. And that's the reason why I've kind of shied away from doing those, with exceptions. But for the most part, I just found them distracting. I found that I was trying to say, hey, look, I can do motion graphics too, instead of naturally integrating them into the video and the script and the writing. So that's probably the most straight up complicated thing I've done for a video. And I don't see myself doing it again. I really didn't like how that portrayed the content. I don't think it helped. So it's complicated. It was a nice little experiment at the time, but in retrospect, I really didn't like doing it. And I don't see myself doing that again until I'm maybe a lot better at that. Maybe. Next up from Glass Imago. How do you arrive at the choice of game for any given video, and what usually goes into deciding on a certain aspect of it to analyze? Well, that kind of goes into what I said to Dan. It's very organic. It just kind of comes to me, and arrive at the choice. I usually try to talk about things in games that I really do like. Like, that's the reason that I kind of did like the new Pokemon Snap video, the Danganronpa videos, the Metal Gear Rising videos, pretty much all the videos that I've done, with exceptions. There's like the Donkey Kong Country games and DK64 for sure, where I've kind of tried to shy away from just being negative. I think that there's enough just shitting on things on the internet, and I understand that negative criticism is important. But I found that I've just been able to produce better content when I'm talking about something that I like, or something that at least I'm very well versed in. Like, there's a reason that I talk about certain series or certain games that I've played, the ones that I've played for a long time. And while I do try to focus on parts that are for some things that I'm doing for the first time, but I like talking about games that I have a lot of experience with, that I have a lot of, that I've spent a lot of time and just getting invested in them. And that's really kind of where I've been going for a lot of the recent content I've noticed. However, on deciding what part of it do I want to analyze, that really comes from just playing the game. Maybe just something stands out, something I notice that I can build around, or sometimes it's just the game itself. Sometimes I want to do just a general retrospective covering as much as I can. So, like I said, there really is no plan to this. And I think that there are a lot of content creators who share this sentiment. But there are some that, have a formula, they have a process, and more power to them. But for me, it just comes naturally. Just something cool. Just keeping an eye out for something that maybe another game doesn't. Maybe this game does exceptionally well, or maybe this game does a lot of things well, but they fulfill a certain purpose. So it really depends. I know some people, they say don't pick the game before you do the video, but sometimes that it goes the other way around. Sometimes I'm like, I know about this game already. Let's do a video on it. Let's see what we find. And if some reason I don't find anything interesting, well, I try not to go into the fallacy of saying, okay, I've spent all this time on this. I gotta see it out to the end. Sometimes that's not the case. So Mr. Peridactyl has given me 3 questions, given me a lot of work on that one. What's a topic you've been interested in covering on your channel that isn't video game related? Well, there are a lot, and there's like some anime and TV shows that I've done, that I've not done, but I've watched, that I think would be cool to talk about. Maybe some animation, like animated series. I tried sort of dipping my toes into music, reviewing albums, but that's very difficult to translate into video content while still remaining compelling. It takes a level of skill and charisma in order to review something that it really doesn't fit into the space that YouTube is right now, with things like content IDs, and because of that, you can't actually play the music as clearly. So you're sort of reliant on just the personality of it. And that's difficult for me to do because I really don't feel I don't really have too much of a charisma, from what I've noticed. And maybe you disagree. I'm not sure. I'd like to do, I've done music music criticism on the channel, and I think that those are some pretty good projects. I think they turned out pretty well. You know, the Metal Gear Rising, the Crush 40, the Hotline Miami. I kind of want to take it to the next level, but I'm not really sure how. Maybe in a future video I'll be able to kind of get that together. But yeah, I'd like to talk about music. I'd like to talk about anime. I'd like to talk about TV. I guess the trouble is just the content itself. It's trickier to work around on YouTube. The next question that Perry had was, do you plan on making Kong-tent forever? I don't know. I mean, you know, obviously, and, you know, in case anybody doesn't know, is that this was kind of spearheaded by Snowman Gaming, a very talented YouTube content creator who's been making Donkey Kong content for his Donkey Kong month for a long time now, and he just recently retired that. I just originally started doing Donkey Kong content because I kind of wanted to get involved in the community. I kind of wanted to participate in something that a lot of other people were really invested in. I wanted to kind of join that club, and I think it ended up, I've ended up with some really fulfilling content. I really do like how the Donkey Kong Country 3 in particular video came out. 2 has some things that I kind of wish I did a little bit better, but the Donkey Kong 64 video I think did pretty well as far as just having fulfilling content. Maybe not related to the numbers on their own, but yeah, I want to keep doing this every year. It'll only come down to how many games I can cover, how many angles I can kind of, you know, draw out of that. Ultimately, it depends. I kind of want to, you know, I still have a lot of games that I can kind of talk about. Like, obviously, since I finished the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat video, which is another one that I think turned out really well, there's still, you know, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. There's a lot to talk about still, just general retrospectives, but I know that something that Snowman did really well and something that Perry and several other content creators have done for the Donkey Kong month is just having those little stories, those little angles that you can draw out of Donkey Kong, whether it's the character, whether it's the series, whether it's the game design, whether it's the development processes. There's a lot to talk about. So I guess what I'm saying is I'll keep doing it as long as I can come up with ideas. And I think that's a fair look at that. And finally, Peridactyl's last question is, who's your favorite Donkey Kong character? I don't know. I mean, I've always liked, you know, just Donkey Kong as a character. His sort of aesthetic, his sort of design is pretty intriguing to me. Just, you know, the red necktie, and he's kind of gone through all these different sort of phases, these different eras that have made things feel differently. But, you know, I like K. Rool. He's such a goofball, and he has, I guess for lack of a better term, a lot of hats to wear. He's taken on the role of a pirate captain, a mad scientist, a king. And seeing him back in Smash Bros is always really cool. It was just really the way that Sakurai and his team sort of translated all of these elements from K. Rool's appearances into Smash was always really, really interesting to me. And that's something I really appreciate about Smash Bros. Characters. So I think K. Rool adds genuine character to the series. So I would like to see him come back in a mainline Donkey Kong game, whatever that may be. But maybe we'll see that. But I really don't know. It's probably either just DK or K. Rool. I mean, Diddy and Dixie for sure are really nice characters. But I don't really know. It's the whole universe of Donkey Kong is just really fascinating, and how it's grown is really interesting to me. So I really don't have a for sure answer. DK and K. Rool, probably them. Kurai asks, when's the Persona 4 Golden video and why is Naoto best girl? RPGs are very long and tough to record. I mean, I've done videos on longer games. The Danganronpa V3 video was definitely one of them. But I've managed to pull off some longer titles analysis before. Persona 4 Golden is such a long game, and there's so many different arcs to it that it would be very difficult to do. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to it, and there's a lot to uncover, and I know that there have been a lot of other content creators who've kind of tackled Persona 4 Golden just head on. I kind of feel like Persona, aside from maybe Persona 1, 2, and 3, that there's so much already that people have covered, and I'm not entirely sure how I can add to that conversation, but we'll see. You know, tomorrow never knows. As for why is Naoto best girl, I mean, she's an interesting character that goes through a pretty, I guess, panoramic arc that kind of examines a lot of not just the character, but also the culture, just different social norms. She's not my favorite character, but I can understand why people appreciate so much about her. I think she's a good character. I mean, Persona 4 has a ton of good characters, and a lot of them that you just want to root for, and Naoto's definitely up there for sure. Prime Hylian asks, good old Rob, what's your favorite thing that you've made? This reminds me of when I asked, I remember I sent a message to Bill Trinan on Twitter. You might know him because he's a localization member of Nintendo, I believe. And I think I asked him, like, what's his favorite grunge band? Because he's a big fan of, 90s grunge music, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, all that good stuff. And he replied, and it's something that kind of stuck with me, I love all my children equally. And that's kind of where I'm getting at with my videos. I love all my children equally, but in all seriousness, it's really tough to choose. I like the videos where I dive into the deep stuff and challenge myself to make quality work, but I also like videos that resonate with a lot of people in different ways. So, but even if a video doesn't do high numbers, that fulfillment is still a big part of the process. I guess what I'm saying is, watch all my videos, please. I hope you find a favorite, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what my favorite is. There are some that I think I did better in some cases, but I think I did worse in others. So it's really hard to say. Like I said, watch all my videos. Just, I hope you find something that you really think is cool. Moon Spirit asks, what's the inspiration for your channel name? And if I could ask, who are your inspirations? Well, I've kind of brought this up in the past, but when I was first sort of starting the channel, I was a big fan, and I still am, of System of a Down's music. And there's a lyric in their track Suggestions from their first record that said post-hypnotic suggestions. And then they released Mesmerize and Hypnotize later down the line, sort of those brother and sister albums. And they kind of had that synonymous element to them, so I just kind of plugged it into post-hypnotic and said PostMesmeric. So really it's a System of a Down reference that's kind of stuck with me all the whole time, and I think that's fine. People have their names directly tied to different elements of their history, and that's, mine's not anything special. There's not any sort of super hidden meaning behind it. It's just I liked some music. But as for inspirations, I've always found just quality writing to be a really big draw for me. Just someone who thinks, who talks, who writes. And that's really why why I'm not a big fan of motion graphics. I think they're distracting. Like, there are some YouTube folk, some incredibly large channels, in fact, with like 50K subscribers or something like that. And they do all these motion graphics, and there's so much moving text on screen. There's so much animation, and it's like, slow down. Like, I cannot piece all this together because it's distracting. There's so much going on, which is why I've kind of strayed away from that. So aside from maybe a few bits in like the Metal Gear Rising video, which I think that's a level of motion and animation that I think is worth investing in, being engaging without being distracting. So I personally find value in quality writing. So I've always been drawn to Matthew Matosis's videos, not just because he writes and analyzes really well, but because he acknowledges developer intent in his analysis instead of just saying this sucks and moving on. He definitely did this in his God of War 2018 video, which is probably one of my all-time favorite works by Matthew Matosis. Just because he had that section at the end where he kind of just took a hammer to the YouTube critique community in general and just said, most of us are just critics and we can't do any better. We say all of these things that say this sucks, this could be better, this needs to be better. And he just said, we're just critics. And I mean, critics are important, obviously, but he made it clear that, and even throughout his entire video, that developers put these things in the game for a reason, or at least they should. They should have these things for a specific reason. And he kind of tried to devise not just solutions, but just analyses where this is the reason it was put into the game, and this is how it can achieve those goals. And that really stuck with me. That really showed me that critics can examine games and find what the developer was going for without just saying this sucks. Yeah, I really did appreciate that. And, you know, as I look at it, I've even been seeing that in some of the older channels. Like, I mean, Angry Video Game Nerd actually talked to one of the developers of a game that he was taking to task and explaining the development behind it. And I thought that was really cool. That shows a lot of, it shows a level of humility that I don't think a lot of other YouTube content creators are really brave enough to do. So sort of jumping off on that, I've been inspired by other writing focused channels, like, you know, Writing on Games. He obviously produces a lot of interesting content on games that you might not get a lot of attention as far as analyses. The gameplay and the editing just kind of speaks for itself. I don't need a ton of super crazy fancy visuals on screen that can distract me from clear, pure analytical narration. I know that's all a personal preference, and I know that many people would definitely disagree with me, but I really don't like where there's a ton of effects on screen cluttering up the video. I don't like that. It's not compelling to me. It can give me a headache. Like, it's literally given me a headache in the past. There's an extreme that I think a lot of larger channels really skirt close to. So if you're going to use motion graphics and visual effects in your videos, don't overdo it. That's all I can say. And obviously this is coming from a guy who values writing over, I guess, quote unquote, presentation. So it's hard to say. Everybody has their preference, but that's mine. Tectonic Improv said, what would you consider your first big break? How do you think it happened? Well, if you judge by the numbers, that would be the Donkey Kong Country videos, the DKC and the DKC2, which managed to make it over to Reddit at some point and caught on with some subreddits like r/games. And that would be the case. I think so. But I do kind of consider the dishwasher video to be a break, because what happened when I first released that video is I tagged Ska Studios and the developers of that game. And when I did, I noticed that they not only favorited it at the time, is they retweeted it. Not just the individual developers, but the actual studio Twitter. And it kind of blew me away. And I think the thing that really kind of stuck with me is not just that they did that, but they said, they pretty much said about my video that I examined the game in a way that they agree with. They say he got it. He understood what we were going for with this game. So hearing a developer look at your video or look at your analysis or look at anything that you've done in response to their work, say, you got it. You nailed it. I'm so happy you did this. It's such a good feeling. You know, people who've grown up with a lot of these developers' work, even if it's not like an indie developer, because Ska Studios are obviously very new. If you like, imagine if you were playing Super Mario Brothers and Miyamoto came up to you and said that your analysis or your fan art or your cover or anything like that really resonated with him. Imagine if that happened. That's kind of the same feeling I got when Ska Studios really enjoyed my dishwasher video. It was great. It made me feel like what I was doing kind of connected with them on a different level than just this fan had something to say about our game. So that, in a way, is kind of a big break. It wasn't huge. It didn't give me huge numbers on the video. You know, you can obviously attest those kinds of situations to things like the Scott Pilgrim video or the Danganronpa video or the Metal Gear Rising video. But I guess my first big break was just seeing a developer look at my video and say, thank you for doing this. You really understand why we really love this thing that we made. So the lesson to learn is, within reason, obviously, tag the developers in your promo tweets for the videos. They might actually end up digging it. So they might actually end up liking it. And finally, because this has been going on for a long time, but we finally reached the last question from Mitch Heavy-Eyed Kramer, another talented YouTuber who I've said a lot of YouTubers here, like, you know, Daniel Santos, Picancho, Peridactyl, Rob, Tectonic Improv, Moon Spirit, everybody. If you send in a question, you're worth checking out. But Mitch said, how do you think your style has changed over the years and since starting the channel? Have you noticed anything conscious or subconscious over the years? That's a really hard question to answer because I really don't have a good answer. But it's not so much a style, I'd say, but this is a way of thinking about games. I mentioned that Matthew Matosis his work has been a big influence on me, and I think the biggest takeaway from his most recent work, a lot of the stuff that he's done recently, is exploring the why behind the what. I've tried to be more accommodating and fair when looking at games like this because bad ideas, ideally, they really aren't put into a game for the sole purpose to irritate a player, which is why, there's obviously more, predatory elements of video games, mostly related to monetization, that are bad, that are put in there to take advantage of things. But when designing a game, like just a game itself, the design, most of these ideas aren't put into the game with the sole purpose to irritate a player. I don't think there's a developer rubbing their hands together with a big, grin on their face saying, I'm going to totally ruin this person's good time. They're not doing that. Every component serves a purpose, and examining that purpose can lead to both better analysis and an understanding of the developer's intent, which is something that I've been trying to do a lot, which is like having a good bad evaluation has an important place in the industry. Like we need people to call out when something is good or bad. So it's not really a knock on that style of criticism, but I know that my newer videos try to examine why things are the way they are. That's, kind of why I approached the new Pokemon Snap video where I kind of addressed why these request systems are in the game instead of just saying they're bad, they screw everything up, forget them. So I think that understanding why a developer would implement a certain element is very, very important. And I think developer intent, kind of closing when you're talking to a developer, there's definitely a tension between the player and the developer because there's a level of communication that really isn't there yet. I kind of want to build that communications from the player side and just say like, this is the reason that a developer, this is probably the reason, I can only go so far as a critic. I want to sort of convince the player base to understand why a developer would do something like this in their game. I think, when something bad in a game happens, I don't think there's malice behind it. Most of the time, there's obviously exceptions and there are bad apples involved in the development community. I think that there could be a way to sort of build a bridge of understanding between the player and the developers. And that's kind of something I've been trying to pursue. An attitude, an understanding, figuring out why these things in games are the way they are and why they're there. Yeah, that's probably the best thing that I've noticed as far as a way of thinking about games. But as far as style, I've been doing a lot of the same stuff for a while now. I kind of want to evolve my writing. I kind of want to evolve my editing a little bit more. It depends. There's a lot going on in a video, but I kind of want to take that idea of thinking and translate it into quality writing. So that's really what I can say. So that was the Q&A, and I think the last thing that I can do is I just owe everybody an update on what exactly is going on with the channel. I am working on the next project. I don't know when it's going to be done. I'm kind of leaning towards sometime next month or the month after. In the next month, I'm recording this at the end of August, so I'm leaning towards maybe the end of September, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to stamp a date on that just yet, but it'll take some time, but I'm moving full speed ahead. And I do like where this is going. I do like where this project is going. So I really hope you enjoy it down the line. It is going to be, well, I don't know. I really don't, I don't want to spill too many beans. So I'll leave it at that. New videos coming soon. Thank you again for all of your support over the years. 10K subscribers is a lot, despite what some other people might tell you. I still feel small, even though I'm not. I guess the last thing that I really want to get by is just, I also want to thank not just the people who watch this, but there are I have some friends who've kind of helped me get out of some slumps over the last several years. As far as the quality of my content, they've kind of just stood in the background, but they're always available on Discord who've helped me. They've helped me get out of some bad spots, some toxic headspaces, I guess. So I want to thank them. I don't want to give them, drop any names or anything like that. But you know who you are, and you guys have really helped me overcome a lot of this anxiety and trouble that plagues a lot of public figures, YouTubers, sort of things going on. Thank you for everything that you've done. I really miss you guys. I really wish that we could talk more. And so, yeah. But I'm gonna cut this off. Thank you again for watching. I'm really happy that I'm able to get 10,000 subscribers, and that's a lot of people who believe that my work is worth a damn. So I think that moving forward, I'm going to try and just refine my work. I don't like putting schedules or anything like that. So sit tight. We're going to have more stuff down the line. And I guess one last time, thank you so much for being there and putting just watching my stuff. It means the world to me. Have a good day, night, whenever you're watching this. I'll see you again soon. Bye.